सो फ्रेंड्स, अभी बात करेंगे हम एओर्टिक रीगर्जिटेशन के बारे में। एओर्टिक रीगर्जिटेशन विच इज आल्सो कॉल्ड एज एओर्टिक इनसफिशिएंसी। सो सबसे पहले एग्जामिनर पूछेगा व्हाट इज योर केस, देन यू विल से दिस इज a केस ऑफ valvular, this is a case of, you will say this is a case of valvular aortic regurgitation, probably of rheumatic origin. You will say of rheumatic origin, and the patient is without congestive cardiac failure, and the patient is in sinus rhythm at present. So in this way you will tell your diagnosis. Then the examiner will ask what is your case, then you will try to build up the summary. You will say aortic regurgitation remains asymptomatic for years or decades. The common symptoms of aortic regurgitation are palpitations, awareness of the heartbeat, chest pain. Chest pain occurs because of the pounding of the heart within the chest wall. Then dyspnea can occur, which is exertional dyspnea. Then features of left ventricular failure, that is orthopnea and PND will be there. So what is your case? Sir, my patient has symptoms of palpitation, awareness of the own heartbeat, chest pain, dyspnea, exertional dyspnea, features of LVF and CCF, that is orthopnea and PND. Then what are the peripheral signs? This is very important. Peripheral signs of aortic regurgitation. Now we'll discuss what are the peripheral signs of aortic regurgitation. You, for telling the peripheral signs of aortic regurgitation, you will start from the hand and then you will move towards the neck, then towards the head, and then comes down towards the leg. So peripheral signs are produced because of the wide pulse pressure. So highlight here, it is because of the wide pulse pressure you get the peripheral signs of aortic regurgitation. So you will start from the hand. There will be visible capillary pulsations, which is called as the Kuhnke sign. So visible capillary pulsation. This is first sign is Kuhnke sign. There is you will see these Kuhnke sign on the nail beds. There is blanching and quick refilling of the blood vessels on the nail bed. There is quick blanching and refill of the nail bed. When light pressure is applied to the tip of the fingers or the nails, there is alternate flushing and pallor of the nail bed. So you have to apply a light pressure at the tip of the fingers or the nails. There is alternate flushing and pallor of the nail bed. Then when a glass slide is pressed on the everted lower lip, it produces alternate redness and blanching. So this is visible capillary pulsations. Then you will say that prominent digital artery pulsations, you have to hold the flexed fingers of the patient with your fingers in a flexed position to feel for the pulsation. You have to hold the flexed fingers of the patient with your flexed fingers to look for the digital artery pulsation. So this is the second sign, artery pulsations digital artery pulsations. First was visible capillary pulsations, then second was digital artery pulsations. Then high volume collapsing pulse or Corrigan pulse. High volume collapsing pulse or Corrigan's pulse or water hammer pulse you will get. So you will get high volume pulse, which is called the water hammer pulse. So this is another sign, water hammer pulse. Then you will get the, as you move up from the hand, you will get the locomotor brachialis. Look at the medial side of the lower arm with semi-flexed elbow for tortuous and highly pulsatile brachial artery. Tortuosity is the most important component of the locomotor brachialis, and thus it is commonly found in atherosclerosis, that is old age. So you will look for the locomotor brachialis at the middle side of the lower arm. So you will look for the locomotor brachialis. So what is the important component of this? Tortuosity is the important component of locomotor brachialis, and you will get the locomotor brachialis in atherosclerosis. So you will see where in the arm at the lower and the middle side of the arm in a semi-flexed elbow. For you will look for the tortuosity and highly pulsatile brachial artery. Then about the blood pressure, there will be wide pulse pressure, there will be wide pulse pressure, very high systolic and very low diastolic. That is the wide pulse pressure. You will get the wide pulse pressure, and even the Krotkov sound may continue up to 0 millimeter of mercury. Pulse pressure is usually more than wide pulse pressure, you become more than 60 millimeter of mercury. So very wide pulse pressure you will get in aortic regurgitation. Then you can get as you move above from the arm, you will get the Corrigan sign, that is dancing carotid in the neck. You will get dancing carotid in the neck, that is the Corrigan sign. Corrigan sign. Corrigan sign. Corrigan sign. What is Corrigan sign? It is dancing carotid at the neck. That is Corrigan sign. Corrigan sign. Then you will get De Mosset sign. De Mosset sign. What is De Mosset sign? We'll discuss what is De Mosset sign. You will get De Mosset sign. De Mosset sign is named after a French poet. So there is to and fro head nodding synchronous with each carotid pulsation or heartbeat. So to and fro head nodding synchronous with each carotid pulsation. So there will be to and fro head nodding, to and fro head nodding with each carotid pulsation or with each heartbeat. There is systolic extension of the neck. There is systolic extension of the neck. So to and fro head nodding is De Mosset sign, which is seen with each carotid pulsation, which is synchronous with heartbeat also. This is Corrigan sign. This is De Mosset sign. What was Corrigan sign? Corrigan sign was the dancing carotid, but De Mosset sign is the head movement. Then visible pulsations you can see in the suprasternal or jugular notch. You will get the jugular pulsations. Jugular pulsations you will get where? In the suprasternal notch. You will get the jugular notch. You will get the jugular pulsations, visible pulsations in the suprasternal notch, also called jugular pulsation or suprasternal pulsation. This is another sign of aortic regurgitation. Then you will get the pistol shot sound or Traub sign. What is Traub sign? What is pistol shot sign? Booming sound produced after pressing the stethoscope over the femoral artery. So what is the pistol shot or Traub sign? Examiner will ask what is Traub sign in aortic regurgitation. Then you will say booming sound, booming sound heard over the femoral artery. That is your Traub sign or the pistol shot femorals. That is booming sound you will hear over the femoral, that is produced after pressing the stethoscope over the femoral artery. So this is another sign of aortic regurgitation. Then comes to another, there you can hear the systolic murmur on compressing the stethoscope proximally. So this is stethoscope, you are compressing it proximally. You will get the systolic murmur. And if you compress it distally, then you will get the diastolic murmur. Distally diastolic murmur, proximally systolic murmurs. And the distal compression which produces the diastolic murmur, that is distal compression of the femoral artery which produces the diastolic murmur, is also termed as the Drozier's murmur. Drozier's murmur. So this is another sign of aortic regurgitation. Then what is Hill sign? Hill sign is basically the increase in the femoral artery systolic BP more than 20 millimeter of mercury above the brachial artery systolic BP. So femoral artery systolic BP will become more than 20 milligram mercury than the brachial artery systolic BP. That is Hill sign. In healthy, the systolic difference between the two extremities remains within 20 millimeter of mercury. In severe aortic regurgitation, the difference becomes more than 60 millimeter of mercury. It is very important and specific signs of aortic regurgitation. So you have to say the what is Hill sign? Hill signs systolic BP in lower limb becomes more than systolic BP in upper limb. So what is the normal difference between the systolic BP of lower limb and upper limb is less than 20. But if it is becomes more than 20, that is Hill sign, and it is seen in aortic regurgitation. Severe aortic regurgitation, it can go up to more than 60 millimeter of mercury. It is very important and specific sign of aortic regurgitation. Then move on to another question. Pulsations in different areas in aortic regurgitation are named after different clinicians. Pulsations in the uvula, liver, and alar spleen are respectively named as Muller sign. Pulsations in the uvula is named as Muller sign. If it is in the uvula, it is named as Muller sign. And if it is in the liver, it is known as the Rosenbach sign. The Rosenbach sign. And if it is in the spleen, it is known as Gerhard sign. If it is in the spleen, it is known as Gerhard sign. Gerhard sign. So pulsation in the uvula is known as Muller sign, in the liver Rosenbach sign, in the spleen Gerhard sign. Changes in the pupil size with each carotid systole is known as Landlof Landloffi sign. Landolfi sign. So alternate dilatation and contraction of the pupil, that is change in the size of the pupil with each cardiac systole. It is known as Landolfi sign. Landolfi sign. It is known as Landolfi sign. So what is Landolfi sign? Change in the size of the pupil with each cardiac systole is Landolfi sign. Then alternate flushing and blotching of the forehead is known as lighthouse sign. What is lighthouse sign? Alternate flushing and blotching. This is forehead. Suppose this is forehead. There will be flushing and blanching of the forehead. Flushing and blanching of the forehead is known as lighthouse sign. It is lighthouse sign. So what is lighthouse sign? Flushing and blanching of the forehead is known as the lighthouse sign. And pulsation of the retinal artery is Becker sign. Pulsations of the retinal artery is Becker sign. So this is retina, here is retinal artery. Pulsations of the retinal artery is known as Becker sign. Pulsation of the retinal artery is known as Becker sign. Then what is Drogius sign? Drogius sign is the combination of systolic murmur on proximal compression of the femoral artery and diastolic murmur on distal compression of the femoral artery is Drogius sign, and are appreciable after adjusting the pressure of the chest piece of the stethoscope over the femoral artery. So one can ask you, what is Drogius murmur? Drogius murmur is the diastolic murmur heard when we compress the distally femoral artery. But what is Drogius sign? It is the proximal compression produces the systolic murmur and distal compression produces the diastolic murmur. So it is produced after adjusting the pressure of the stethoscope, that is the Drogius sign. So Drogius sign is systolic and diastolic murmur depending upon the adjustment of the pressure proximally or distally. So this is Drogius sign. Then we will move on to another question. Why do you say aortic regurgitation? Then examiner can ask why aortic regurgitation? Then you will say, sir, because of the symptoms and signs. So you will elaborate the symptoms, like what are the symptoms you were getting? You were getting the palpitation, throbbing sensation all over the body, chest pain, dyspnea, exertional dyspnea, past history of rheumatic fever is also present. Features of LVF, all those features which tell the symptoms of aortic regurgitation. Then you will elaborate the sign. So we'll tell the pulse is high volume, neither there is any unequal delay, arterial wall is not thickened, all the pulses are palpable, and it is water hammer in type. BP is 145/40 in supine position, high systolic and low diastolic. So there is wide pulse pressure, all the peripheral signs are present. Apex is diffuse, goes down and outwards with hyperdynamic character. So features of LVH will be there. There will be down. There will be hyperdynamic. Apex will be hyperdynamic, and it can goes down and out, down and out. So what type of apex you will get? You will get hyper dynamic apex. You will get the hyper dynamic apex, and the apex can go down and out, down and out because of the LVH. So hyperdynamic apex goes down and out. Then palpation of the aortic area, you will see there will be no thrill, no palpable hearts or no pulsation, though very rare one may get a diastolic thrill in aortic area. In aortic area or in the lower left sternal border, one may get a diastolic thrill. Then auscultation of the aortic area, you will get S1 audible, S2 muffled. So you will auscultate the aortic area. Aortic area S1 is audible. This is aortic area. As you audible, there S1 will be audible, but S2, the aortic component, will be muffled. S2 will be muffled. A2 will be muffled in aortic area. Then what kind of murmur you will get in aortic regurgitation? It is high pitched soft blowing early diastolic decrescendo murmur of grade 3, which is best audible in sitting position and leaning forward position. So elaborate the murmur of aortic regurgitation. You know it is early decrescendo murmur, early diastolic decrescendo murmur, but you have to say it is high pitched soft blowing. It is high pitched soft blowing. It is high pitched soft blowing early diastolic decrescendo murmur of grade 3, which is best audible in sitting and leaning forward position in full expiration and with the diaphragm of the stethoscope. The murmur is radiated towards the apex and is best heard at neo-aortic area. Left third intercostal space is neo-aortic area. So where does the murmur radiates? And with best heard in full expiration because it is left-sided murmur and with the diaphragm of the stethoscope. The murmur is radiated towards the apex and is best heard in the neo-aortic area. So it is high-pitched, soft blowing, early diastolic decrescendo murmur of grade 3 intensity, best heard in sitting and leaning forward position in full expiration and with the diaphragm of the stethoscope. The murmur is best heard in the apex, radiates to the apex, not best heard, it radiates to apex and is best heard in the neo-aortic area, that is the left third intercostal space. Left third intercostal space, you will hear the murmur of aortic regurgitation. Occasionally the murmur may radiate up to the apex and left axilla and is known as cholecycal murmur, cholecyle murmur, cholecyle murmur, cholecyle murmur, cholecyle murmur. So what is cholecyle murmur? So the murmur of aortic regurgitation, which is heard in the neo-aortic area, can radiate to the apex and sometimes to the axilla. That is the cholecyle murmur. Cholecyle murmur. That is the cholecyle murmur. Sometimes S3 may be heard. Sometimes S3 may be heard. So other areas of heart and lungs within normal limits. Add features of pulmonary hypertension if present. Always examine the neck for thyroid enlargement in a patient with wide pulse pressure. So you should examine the neck for thyroid enlargement in a patient with wide pulse pressure. You should examine the thyroid enlargement. Examination of the respiratory system, GIT tract, nervous system revealed no abnormality. So examination of the respiratory system, GIT tract and nervous system revealed no abnormality. Patients of aortic regurgitation remains asymptomatic for years after years, but once decompensated, they start deteriorating rapidly. Search for the stigmata of Marfan syndrome, ankylosing spondylitis, and rheumatoid arthritis. So aortic regurgitation में you have to search for the features of Marfan syndrome, ankylosing spondylitis, rheumatoid arthritis. Then different types of murmur found in aortic regurgitation. Now we will discuss about the various types of murmur you will found in aortic regurgitation. You have the case of aortic regurgitation. What are the different types of murmur you will find? Classically, the early diastolic murmur, which is short blowing high pitched murmur in the neo-aortic area or the aortic area. You will hear the classical murmur of aortic regurgitation, that is the early diastolic murmur. This is classical murmur. It is high pitched soft blowing. Then you can also get ejection systolic murmur or functional aortic stenosis in the aortic and aortic area. Again, as you are getting the early diastolic murmur, you can get the aortic stenosis, that is the ejection systolic murmur, because of the functional aortic stenosis which is being created in the aortic and neo-aortic area. You can get the ejection systolic murmur. Then third point is the you can get the Austin Flint murmur, that is the mid diastolic rumbling murmur, flow murmur in the mitral area, mid diastolic rumbling murmur, mid diastolic rumbling murmur in the uh, mitral area, mid diastolic rumbling murmur in the mitral area. So these upper two you were getting in the neo aortic area, that is your early diastolic and ejection systolic. The mid diastolic murmur you will get in the mitral area. This is a functional murmur, flow murmur. It is a flow murmur and it is called as the Austin Flint murmur. So these are the different types of murmur you will get in aortic regurgitation. Then how do you assess the severity of aortic regurgitation? Then question can come, how you will assess the severity of aortic regurgitation? The bedside assessment of severe aortic regurgitation is done by. So how will you assess the severity of aortic regurgitation bedside? So you will say, sir, presence of marked peripheral sign, wide pulse pressure, Hill sign more than 60 millimeter of mercury, the difference in systolic and upper extremity and lower extremities. If it is 20 to 40, it is mild, 40 to 60 is moderate, more than 60 is severe. So first thing is the peripheral sign, you will see that indicates severe stenosis. Then pulse pressure, if it is 20 to 40, it is mild, if it is 40 to 60 is moderate, more than 60 is severe. Severe, moderate, mild aortic regurgitation. Then long duration of the early diastolic Deger syndrome murmur. Long duration of the early diastolic Deger syndrome murmur is also indicative of severity. The murmur duration is very important. Then presence of Austin Flint murmur indicates severity. Then pulses bispherians. Read the section on water hammer pulse. Then soft S2. So what are the severity point? One is the peripheral signs. Then add on to soft S2. Then you can also add the presence of Austin Flint murmur and the presence of pulses bispherians. Then long duration of the murmur. Long duration of the murmur indicates this severe aortic regurgitation. So what are these signs a bedside that indicate the patient has severe aortic regurgitation? You will say patient is having the this long duration of murmur, Austin Flint murmur, pulses bispherians, you are getting Austin Flint murmur, long duration of the early diastolic murmur, soft S2 you are getting. Then depending upon the pulse uh, Hill sign, whether the pulse pressure is between difference between the upper and lower extremities, depending upon that you can say if it is this much and this much, it indicates severity of aortic regurgitation. Then come to another part, the causes of chronic aortic regurgitation. What are the etiologies of chronic aortic regurgitation? Question can come. Chronic aortic regurgitation, 80% of the cases is rheumatic. Write down big, it is rheumatic. 80% are rheumatic. Then aortic regurgitation can be seen in trauma, can be seen in infective endocarditis, bicuspid aortic valve, atherosclerosis, dissection of the aorta, Marfan syndrome, ankylosing spondylitis, rheumatoid arthritis, Ritter syndrome, dissectic aneurysm of the aorta, syphilis. History of exposure should be taken for syphilis. So rheumatic you remember. Then trauma can cause aortic regurgitation. Then bicuspid aortic valve, atherosclerosis, you can add atherosclerosis can cause the aortic regurgitation. Then Marfan syndrome, ankylosing spondylitis, rheumatoid arthritis. Very, very important. Marfan syndrome, ankylosing spondylitis, rheumatoid arthritis can cause aortic regurgitation. Then we can have this Ritter syndrome, dissecting aneurysm of the aorta, and syphilis. These are called aortic regurgitation. The rheumatic trauma, infective endocarditis, and bicuspid aortic valve. These causes the direct involvement of the valve leaflets, while other causes which I told, they produce aortic regurgitation by ring dilatation. That is atherosclerosis, dissection of aorta, Marfan, ankylosing spondylitis, rheumatoid, Ritter, dissecting aneurysm of aorta, syphilis. They are called the aortic valve ring dilatation at the aortic root, so they cause the aortic regurgitation. So these are the chronic causes. Now the acute causes of aortic regurgitation. Peripheral signs are absent in acutely developing aortic regurgitation. So acute regurgitation causes will be, if there is acute aortic regurgitation, you won't get the peripheral signs. It is only the chronic aortic regurgitation you will be getting the peripheral signs. Acute cases mein you won't get the peripheral signs. So you are getting the peripheral signs in chronic aortic regurgitation. So what are the causes of acute aortic regurgitation? You will say subacute bacterial endocarditis, trauma to the chest, dissection of aorta, acute rheumatic fever where there occurs the carditis and valvulitis, then prostatic valve dysfunction. So what are the causes of acute aortic regurgitation? Subacute bacterial endocarditis, trauma to the chest, dissection of aorta, then acute rheumatic fever, then prostatic valve dysfunction. So these are the acute causes: subacute bacterial endocarditis, trauma, dissecting aneurysm, acute rheumatic fever, prostatic valve dysfunction. These are the acute causes of aortic regurgitation. Then tell me the causes of aortic regurgitation with normal or low pulse pressure. This can be asked. Normally with aortic regurgitation you will get the wide pulse pressure. So what are the conditions in which you get aortic regurgitation with normal or even low pulse pressure? So you will say the causes could be acutely developing aortic regurgitation. So I am telling you causes of aortic regurgitation with normal or low pulse pressure. With normal or low pulse pressure, what are the causes of aortic regurgitation? Then you will say the causes of aortic regurgitation with normal or low pulse pressure. Then you will say the causes could be, because of the normal or low pulse pressure, the causes of aortic regurgitation, you will say it could be acutely developing aortic regurgitation. Acutely developing aortic regurgitation, there will be normal or low pulse pressure if it is acutely developing aortic regurgitation, or if there is associated aortic stenosis or tight MS or MS. Association with the aortic stenosis or mitral stenosis, you will get the normal pulse pressure, low pulse pressure. And if aortic regurgitation is associated with congestive cardiac failure, and if aortic stenosis is associated with systemic hypertension. So what are the conditions in which you get aortic regurgitation with normal or low pulse pressure? First, if it is acutely developing aortic regurgitation. Then if it is associated with aortic stenosis, tight MS, congestive cardiac failure, systemic hypertension. So if it is associated with the aortic stenosis, tight MS, congestive cardiac failure, systemic hypertension, then it is a case of normal pulse pressure, low pulse pressure. Okay. Then is there any systolic murmur present in the aortic area? No. Occasionally a harsh systolic murmur of functional aortic stenosis of grade 2 to grade 5 may be heard in the aortic area. The murmur may be transmitted towards the carotids. This is caused by increased flow across the aortic valve and does not necessarily indicate an organic aortic stenosis. For the differences between the organic and functional aortic stenosis, you should read their differences separately. So can you get a systolic murmur present in the aortic area? No. Occasionally Uh, no, occasionally a heart systolic murmur or functional aortic stenosis may be heard in the aortic area. You may heard it. The murmur may be transmitted towards the carotid. This is caused by increased flow across the aortic valve and does not necessarily indicate an organic aortic stenosis. So you can say it is a functional murmur is there in the aortic area. Ejection systolic murmur you are getting, it is a functional. Yeah, you can get, but it is functional. Then what are the clinical features of acute aortic regurgitation? What are the clinical features of acute aortic regurgitation? That acutely ill and symptomatic patient will be breathlessness, there will be chest pain, there will be severe breathlessness, there will be chest pain. 100% patients have acute LVF. It is a medical emergency and should be tackled duly. Peripheral signs are absent, normal or low pulse pressure, no cardiomegaly, diastolic thrill is present in majority of the patient. S1 is soft to absent, short, soft, early diastolic murmur will be there. So it is acutely ill patient will be acutely, if it is a acute regurgitation, patient will have the features of LVF, patient will be having chest pain, breathlessness, then peripheral signs are absent, then there will be no cardiomegaly, then diastolic thrill you will get, LVF, diastolic thrill you will get, then S1 is soft, then you can get short, soft, early diastolic murmur. You can get early diastolic murmur, which is short, soft, early diastolic murmur. So acutely developing AR, you can have the features of LVF. There will be no peripheral sign, no cardiomegaly, diastolic thrill. You can get S1 soft, and there is early diastolic murmur, which is short, soft S1 diastolic murmur. Then question can ask in aortic regurgitation, can you tell me the what are the features of rheumatic aortic regurgitation? What are the features points in favor of rheumatic aortic regurgitation? You will say, sir, the age younger patient, the patient is young, so these are the feature of rheumatic origin. Then history of rheumatic fever in majority of the patient will be there. Involvement of the other valves may be present. Then diastolic thrill usually absent. Then A2 may be diminished or soft or absent. Murmur best audible in the left third intercostal area, blowing in character, peripheral signs present. So what are the features of rheumatic aortic regurgitation? Young age is young. Then history of rheumatic fever, will be there. Then history of rheumatic fever will be there. Involvement of the other valves will be there. Diastolic thrill usually absent in rheumatic, then A2 is diminished or absent, A2 is diminished or absent. Then peripheral signs present. So these features point towards that the murmur is best audible in the third intercostal neo-aortic area, blowing in character. These are the features of aortic regurgitation, rheumatic aortic regurgitation. So what are the features? Young age, history of rheumatic fever, absent diastolic thrill, involvement of the other valves. I forget to mention here, if it is rheumatic, there will involvement of the other valves will be there if it is a case of rheumatic aortic regurgitation. Then another question, what are the features of syphilitic aortic regurgitation? What are the features you will see in syphilitis? Age will be more older, patient will be more older, that is more than 40-year age will be there. Then history of exposure to syphilis present, then usually isolated lesion. Anginal pain is more common, and the lesion is usually isolated. Diastolic thrill may be present, commoner than rheumatic. Right parasternal heave very often present. Then A2 usually loud and timbre quality. Murmur best audible along the right sternal border, right third intercostal space. Ringing, cooing are musical in quality. Peripheral signs more marked than rheumatic. Aortic regurgitation, Austin Flint murmur may be present. So what are the features? The features will be history of exposure history will be there, then usually isolated hota hai, isolated lesion most of the time, isolated lesion. Then diastolic thrill, you will get diastolic thrill in syphilitic origin, diastolic thrill will be there, even commoner than rheumatic. Then right parasternal heave, right parasternal heave will be there, right parasternal heave will be present. Then A2 is usually loud, A2 is loud and having the timbre quality, A2 will be loud, while in rheumatic A2 was soft or absent, but in syphilitic A2 will be loud and having the timbre quality. Then murmur is best audible along the right sternal wall, right third intercostal space, while that of rheumatic was in the left third intercostal space, while this of syphilis is in the right third intercostal space. You are getting the murmur of syphilis, and it is of ringing, cooing, musical quality, having ringing, cooing and musical quality, heard in the right third intercostal space. This is the murmur of aortic regurgitation, heard over the right third intercostal space. Then peripheral signs more marked than rheumatic, so peripheral sign more marked than rheumatic peripheral signs. So in syphilis the peripheral signs are more marked as compared to the rheumatic signs in rheumatic fever. Then Austin Flint murmur may be present in syphilitic aortic regurgitation. Then if the early diastolic murmur of aortic regurgitation is best audible along the right sternal border, it suggests syphilis. So if you are getting the murmur of aortic regurgitation is right sternal border, it suggests syphilis. Marfan, ankylosing spondylitis, and is due to the dilatation of the ascending aorta, and is due to the uh, dilatation of the ascending aorta. So you are getting the murmur on the right sternal border. This is the right sternal border. If you are getting murmur here, then you should think of syphilis, Marfan, ankylosing spondylitis. It is because of the ring dilatation. Then in atherosclerosis aortic regurgitation, the A2 is ringing in quality. The A2 will be ringing in quality. So these are the features of syphilitic aortic regurgitation. Then comes another very important question. We'll discuss now that. The question is, what are the causes of pulsations in different areas? Pulsations in different areas. This is very important question. Pulsations in different areas they can ask. So what are the causes of carotid pulsations? Carotid pulsations first. Carotid pulsation you can get in if there is exertion, emotion, excitement. Then carotid pulsation you can get in aortic regurgitation, and it is known as the Corrigan sign. Corrigan sign. Carotid pulsation, Corrigan sign in aortic regurgitation. Then hyperkinetic circulatory states like severe anemia, thyrotoxicosis, sorry, pregnancy and pyrexia, you can get the hyperkinetic circulatory states, you can get the carotid pulsation. Then atherosclerosis, then aortic aneurysm, then kinked carotid artery, right sided, then you get the carotid pulsation. So what are the conditions you get the carotid pulsation? First is exercise, emotion, excitement. 3E, exercise, emotion, excitement, you can get the carotid pulsation. Then you can get the Corrigan sign, that is seen in the aortic regurgitation, you can get the carotid pulsation. Then hyperkinetic states, you can get hyperkinetic states. Then atherosclerosis, then aortic aneurysm. Then lastly kinked carotid artery, carotid artery, right sided. So these are the causes of carotid pulsations. So what are the now causes of jugular pulsation or suprasternal pulsation? Jugular pulsation or the suprasternal pulsation, what are the causes? Then you will say hypercirculatory states like severe anemia, thyrotoxicosis, pyrexia, pregnancy. What are the hyperkinetic state? You will say severe anemia, pregnancy, fever, thyrotoxicosis, beriberi, all these hyperkinetic states you will get the jugular pulsation. Then aortic regurgitation, you will get the jugular pulsations. Then coarctation of aorta, unfolding of the arch of aorta, aneurysm of the arch of aorta, high arch of aorta. Then abnormal thyroid artery. So suprasternal pulsation you will get. Coarctation of the arch of aorta. What are the conditions? What are the various abnormalities of the aorta? You will get the jugular pulsation or the suprasternal pulsation. Like if there is coarctation of the aorta, then if there is unfolding of the aorta, then if there is aneurysm of the aorta, coarctation, unfolding, aneurysm of the aorta, all these conditions you will get the jugular pulsation. So coarctation of aorta, unfolding of the arch of aorta, coarctation of aorta, aneurysm of the arch of aorta, then high arch of aorta, then abnormal thyroid abnormal thyroid artery. In this also you will get the jugular pulsations. Then what are the causes of pulsations over the pulmonary area? What are the causes of pulsations over the pulmonary area? Now we will discuss the pulsations over the pulmonary area. And pulsations over the pulmonary area you will get physiologically in children. Then pulmonary artery hypertension, then atrial septal defect, then patent ductus arteriosus, then ventricular septal defect, then idiopathic dilatation of the pulmonary artery. So first you will say, yeah, you are getting the pulsation of the pulmonary area. What are the causes? You will say physiologically in children. You will get physiologically in children. Then you will say that pulmonary artery hypertension, there is pulsations over the pulmonary area. Then you will say that atrial septal defect, ventricular septal defect. Then you will say PDA, patent ductus arteriosus. Then idiopathic dilatation of the pulmonary artery, So what are the causes of pulsations over the pulmonary area? You will say we will get physiological in children, then pulmonary artery hypertension, then atrial septal defect, ventricular septal defect, patent ductus arteriosus, then dilatation of the pulmonary artery, idiopathic dilatation of the pulmonary artery. You will get the pulmonary pulsations over the pulmonary area. Then the examiner can ask, what are the causes of pulsations over the aortic area? Pulsations over, now we will turn is about the aortic area. What are the causes of pulsations over the aortic area? Then causes of pulsation over the aortic area is because of the dilatation of the ascending aorta, due to aneurysmal dilatation of the ascending aorta. Then chronic aortic regurgitation, you will get pulsations over the aortic area. So pulsation over the aortic area is because of the chronic aortic regurgitation. Then aneurysmal dilatation of the ascending aorta, aneurysmal dilatation of the ascending aorta. So you will get the aortic pulsation. Then what are the causes of left parasternal pulsation? So examiner can ask, what are the causes of left parasternal pulsations? So what are the causes of left side and parasternal pulsation? You will say right ventricular hypertrophy, left atrial hypertrophy, and atrial septal defect. You will get the left parasternal lift. So what are the causes of left parasternal pulsation? You will say this right ventricular hypertrophy. In atrial septal defect we get the left parasternal lift. In left atrial hypertrophy rarely you can get the left parasternal pulsations. Now we'll discuss about the right parasternal pulsations. Now the question can come, it can say that what are the causes of right parasternal pulsations? Right parasternal pulsation you will get in dextrocardia, you will get in dextroversion due to extracardiac cause, the cause is in the lung, pleura, or thoracic case. So you can get in extracardia, dextroversion due to the extracardiac cause causing the lung, pleura, thoracic case. That is called dextroversion. The cause is outside the cardiac cause. There is a right parasternal pulsation, like the cause could be in the lung, pleura, thoracic case. Then the cause could be aneurysm of the ascending aorta, can cause the right parasternal pulsation. Then right atrial hypertrophy due to any cause. So what are the causes of right parasternal pulsations? One is dextrocardia, then is dextroversion, that is cause is outside the extracardiac region in the lung, pleura, and thoracic cage. Then aneurysm of ascending aorta can cause right parasternal pulsation. Then right atrial hypertrophy due to any cause can cause the right parasternal pulsations. Now we'll see what are the causes of pulsations in the epigastric area. Epigastric pulsations. So epigastric pulsations you will get in excitement, especially in thin persons. Normal aortic pulsations are physiological. So in excitement, in anxiety, you can get in thin individuals. In epigastric pulsation, you can get in thin individuals. In excitement, you can get especially in thin persons. Then right ventricular hypertrophy. Then RVH, you can get in RVH, epigastric pulsation, you get in RVH. Then transmission of the aortic pulsations by any growth present in front of the aorta, like gastric carcinoma. Pulsation disappear or after adopting the knee elbow position. So that is the transmitted pulsations. So pulsations you can get of the aortic pulsations by any growth present in front of the aorta, like gastric carcinoma. But these pulsations, because of the mass which is present in front of the aorta, they will disappear as the patient adopts the knee elbow position. So any growth in front of the aorta can give rise to the epigastric pulsations. So this is very important. I am highlighting it. If a person is getting the epigastric pulsation, so you can say that any growth in front of the aorta, any growth in front of the aorta can give rise to the aortic pulsations. So what can be the growth, like gastric carcinoma? But these pulsations usually disappear as the person adopts the knee elbow position. So these are the cause of epigastric pulsation. So other cause of epigastric pulsation is the aneurysm of the abdominal aorta, expansile pulsation. Aneurysm of the aneurysm of the abdominal aorta. Then transmitted hepatic pulsations in tricuspid regurgitation can be heard in the epigastric area. So transmitted pulsation from the transmitted hepatic pulses from the tricuspid regurgitation. Transmitted hepatic pulses. Write down this word. Transmitted hepatic pulsation from TR, tricuspid regurgitation, can be felt in the epigastric region. So the causes of pulsation in the epigastric region, it could be physiologically seen in excitement in thin individual, then in right ventricular hypertrophy, then any growth in front of the aorta, then transmitted hepatic pulsation from tricuspid regurgitation that can be localized in the epigastric area. Now we'll discuss what are the causes of pulsation at the back. Pulsations at the back. So pulsations at the back. So what are the possible causes of pulsation at the back? You will say the coarctation of aorta, that is the Sussman sign. Coarctation of the aorta. Sussman sign. Coarctation of aorta. This is Sussman sign. You can get it on the back. Then pulmonary AV fistulas. Pulmonary AV fistulas. You will get the pulsations at the back. Then what are the causes of juxta-apical pulsations? Juxta-apical pulsations, you will get it in ventricular aneurysm. Ventricular aneurysm, you will get the juxta apical pulsations. Then what are the causes of apical pulsation? Apical pulsation could be normal in healthy individual, then left ventricular hypertrophy and right ventricular hypertrophy. You will get the apical pulsations in LVH, RVH, or normally you can get the apical pulsation. Yeah. Then the epigastric pulsation is felt with the tip of the index finger inserted upwards and obliquely under the xiphoid process, or it is often better seen after tangential application of light. Tangential application of light. So you have to, for looking the epigastric pulsation, you will use the tip of the finger inserted upwards and obliquely. You have to insert it upward and obliquely under the xiphoid process. Under the xiphoid process, you have to insert upward and obliquely under the xiphoid process. Upward and obliquely you have to go for looking for the epigastric pulsations. Then what is the meaning of thrill? The question comes, what is the meaning of thrill? So what is thrill? Thrill is the palpable low frequency vibrations with the sensation like purring of a cat and is always associated with heart murmur. So what is the meaning of a thrill? This is the palpable low frequency vibrations with the sensations like purring of a cat and is always associated with the heart murmur. It is synonymous with palpable murmur. A thrill is always described by its sight and timing. So where you are getting thrill and with what systole or diastolic thrill you are getting, you have to tell like that you are getting thrill over this area, it is systolic diastolic. So it is a palpable low vibrations which are felt with the sensation like purring of a cat, and is always with the hard murmur. It is a palpable synonymous with palpable murmur. It is synonymous with palpable murmur. How you do determine the timing of a thrill? The question is the timing of thrill. How will you determine the timing of thrill? So that for the timing of the thrill, palpate the thrill with the whole of the flat of the right palm. Palpate the thrill with whole of the flat of the right palm, mainly by the base of the fingers. While palpating for a thrill, always put your left thumb over the right carotid artery at the level of upper border of cricoid cartilage to confirm the timing. Put your left thumb over the right carotid artery at the level of the upper border of the cricoid cartilage to confirm the timing. If the thrill is synchronous with the carotid pulsation, it is systolic thrill. It is systolic thrill and it is systolic thrill and it appears before or after carotid pulsation. It is diastolic thrill. So if it is occurring with the carotid pulsation, it is systolic thrill. It is systolic in timing, and if it is appearing before or after the carotid pulsation, it is diastolic thrill. Many clinicians adjust the timing of the thrill with the apex beat instead of carotid pulsations. Then always remember, in mitral or apical area, diastolic thrill is very common. So very commonly diastolic thrill you will get in the mitral and apical area. You will get diastolic thrill very common in mitral and this apical area. Then in all other areas base of the heart and tricuspid area, systolic thrill is more common. So only thing you have to remember, mitral and apical area you get the diastolic thrill, while in other areas you will get the systolic thrill. In pulmonary area, thrill may be continuous or systolo-diastolic thrill, PDA. Continuous thrill you will get in the, where you get continuous thrill in pulmonary area, especially in patent ductus arteriosus. You will get this continuous thrill, or systolodiastolic thrill, It is seen that thrill is usually present in stenotic lesion and generally absent in regurgitant lesion of the heart. The presence of thrill most of the time indicates that the murmur is organic. If you are getting a thrill, most of the time it indicates the murmur is organic. The murmur is organic. The murmur is organic. Sudden appearance of a thrill usually indicates subacute bacterial endocarditis or failure of the prostatic valve. If you are suddenly getting the thrill, it indicates subacute bacterial endocarditis or failure of the prostatic valve. Sudden appearance of the thrill indicates subacute bacterial endocarditis or failure of the prostatic valve. So, Austen-Flint murmur and Caricom murmur do not have thrills. Austen-Flint murmur and Caricom murmur do not have thrill. Austen-Flint and Caricom do not have thrill. Austen-Flint and Caricom murmur do not have thrill. Then importance of joint involvement in cardiovascular system. What is the importance of joint involvement in cardiovascular system? So what is the importance of joint involvement in cardiovascular system? In joint involvement in cardiovascular system, acute rheumatic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis may be associated with aortic regurgitation or mitral regurgitation. Then arthalgia may be seen in valvular heart disease complicated by subacute bacterial endocarditis. First of all, arthritis can be due to acute rheumatic arthritis, then rheumatoid arthritis, then ankylosing spondylitis. Then arthralgia may be associated with subacute bacterial endocarditis. So what are the points in favor of joint involvement in cardiovascular system? You will say acute rheumatic arthritis. Acute rheumatic arthritis. Then you will say rheumatoid arthritis, rheumatic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. Then you will say Marfan, ankylosing spondylitis. Then arthralgia may be seen in subacute bacterial endocarditis. आर्थरालजिया सब एक्यूट बैक्टीरियल एंडोकार्डिटिस, दो कंडीशन तो वैसे ही हार्ट में रहता है, जैसे सब एक्यूट बैक्टीरियल एंडोकार्डिटिस रह गया और रूमेटिक कार्डाइटिस, इनमें जॉइंट इन्वॉल्वमेंट हो जाता है, तो यू कैन से देन उसके बाद ऐड ऑन करना है रूमेटॉइड आर्थराइटिस एंकलाइजिंग स्पॉन्डिलाइटिस में बी एसोसिएटेड विद cardiovascular system. Then why the murmur of aortic regurgitation is early diastolic? Why it is early diastolic? The leaking back of the blood from the aorta to the left ventricle is greatest in the early part of the diastole for obvious reason, as the pressure in the aorta is more than that of the left ventricle in early diastole. Because you will say, because the pressure in the early diastole is more in the aorta as compared to the ventricle, so there is a backward flow of the blood from the aorta to the left ventricle, which is greatest in the early part of the diastole. In mid of the diastole, no leak is possible at the pressure in the aorta and the left ventricle equal. So very simple, why you are getting the early diastolic murmur? So you will say the pressure in aorta in early diastole is more than the ventricle in early diastole, so the blood will move from the aorta to the ventricles. So you will say like this. Then in the middle of the diastole, the pressure becomes equal between aorta and ventricle, so it is not possible to have the movement of the blood across the valve, so there will be no murmur. So this is why the murmur of aortic regurgitation in early diastole is more is early diastolic. Then what are the differential diagnoses of aortic regurgitation? Very important. What are the differential diagnoses of aortic regurgitation? Question can come in this way. What are the differential diagnoses of your case? You will say that patent ductus arteriosus, coronary arteriovenous fistulas, rupture of the sinus of Valsalva, considered for wide pulse pressure. They produce continuous murmur. So what are the causes of differential diagnosis? They produce wide pulse pressure, so PDA, AV fistulas, rupture of the sinus of Valsalva. I can put there them as differential diagnosis. So what are the differential? PDA, then a rupture of the sinus of Valsalva, then AV fistulas, coronary AV fistulas, PDA, rupture of the sinus of vulva. These are the differential diagnosis because they produce the wide pulse pressure, and they are known for continuous murmur. Then Gram-Still murmur, considered for early diastolic murmur in the pulmonary area. Features of pulmonary hypertension are present without any peripheral sign of aortic regurgitation. Then Gram-Still murmur rare, can be considered for early diastolic murmur in the pulmonary area. Gram-Still murmur in pulmonary area. Gram-Still murmur in pulmonary area can be considered as a part of early diastolic murmur. The feature of pulmonary hypertension are present without any peripheral signs of aortic regurgitation. Then what are the complications of aortic regurgitation? And the question can come, the examiner can ask, what are the complications of aortic regurgitation? Examiner can ask in this way. So you will say the complication of aortic regurgitation is acute left ventricular failure, infective endocarditis, congestive cardiac failure, arrhythmias, heart block, angina pectoris, especially nocturnal angina pectoris. Angina is due to the low diastolic BP, compromising the coronary artery perfusion pressure and marked LVH. So what are the complications of aortic regurgitation? You will say acute LVF, congestive cardiac failure, then infective endocarditis, then you will say arrhythmias, heart blocks, angina pectoris. So these are the complications of aortic regurgitation: acute LVF, CCF, infective endocarditis, arrhythmia, heart block, angina. Angina is due to the low diastolic blood pressure, compromising the coronary artery perfusion and causing the marked left ventricular hypertrophy that produces the two reasons for angina. One is low diastolic blood pressure and another is LVH. Then how will you investigate a case of aortic regurgitation? Investigation for aortic regurgitation, very important. Investigate a case of aortic regurgitation. Then for investigation I would like to go for chest x-ray, where I can find the features of LVH. Cardiomegaly will be there. A large heart is also known as the cor bovium or bovine heart. In x-ray you will get the LVH. Bovine heart is large heart, is also called as the bovine heart. So this is feature on x-ray. On x-ray you will see the aortic root dilatation, prominent aortic knuckles, that is the root aortic root dilatation you will see in x-ray. In x-ray you will also see the aortic valve calcification, raises the possibility of concomitant aortic stenosis. So aortic valve calcification, aortic root dilatation, cardiomegaly you will see. Then in ECG you will get the features of LVH, conduction defects. You will also do the ECG and you will see the LVH, features of LVH and conduction defects. So blood, you will do also the blood testing for detecting the active rheumatic carditis, like you will do the TLC, DLC, ESR, ASF titer, VDR and Khan test for syphilis, anti-nuclear or anti-CCP for rheumatoid arthritis, CRP to exclude the connective tissue disease. Then you will go for the echocardiography M mode and 2D mode for diagnosing, assessing the severity and possible causes of lesion. You will also do the blood work for syphilis, rheumatic cause to rule out the rheumatic cause, connective tissue cause, all those things. Then echo, you will do the M mode and 2D mode for diagnosing, assessing the severity and possible cause of lesion, for diagnosis, assessing the severity and possible cause of the lesion. What is the lesion behind this Then you will do the, this was the echo. Then you will do the cardiac catheterization to assess for the coronary artery disease in patients requiring surgery. So you can also do the cardiac catheterization to assess for the coronary artery disease. And lastly, you will go for the color Doppler study, most sensitive for detecting mild aortic regurgitation. Color Doppler study. You will do the color Doppler study for mild AR के लिए. Then how will you treat the case of aortic regurgitation? Then comes the important point. How will you treat this case? First is medical management and then surgical management. We have the medical management and surgical management for aortic regurgitation. Medical management, as in metrostenosis, to treat the underlying cause, infective endocarditis syphilitic aortitis needs to be treated. You have to treat the infective endocarditis, and syphilitic aortitis needs to be treated. Chronic mitral aortic regurgitation with significant volume overload needs vasodilator therapy with hydralazine, nifedipine, or ACE inhibitors. Needs vasodilator therapy. Chronic volume overload needs vasodilator therapy with ACE inhibitors, hydralazine, nifedipine, or ACE inhibitors. Then surgical management includes the aortic valve replacement, prosthesis. Ideal time for operation is selected after hemodynamic or echocardiographic evidence of left ventricular dysfunction. You will go for the aortic valve replacement. After ideal time for operation is selected after hemodynamic or echocardiography evidence of valve dysfunction, but before the development of significant symptoms, we ideally should go for aortic valve replacement. Diastolic thrill in the aortic area. Diastolic thrill in the aortic area is rare in aortic area regurgitation. If really a diastolic thrill is present, it is better to think for syphilitic origin, rupture of sinus of valsalva, aortic incompetence developed after dissecting aneurysm. So question he is saying, here the surgical management is aortic valve replacement only after considering the hemodynamic or echocardiographic evidence. So note to be made, diastolic thrill is never seen in this aortic regurgitation, or is rare in aortic regurgitation. If you are getting, then you should think of either syphilis is there, or rupture of sinus of valsalva is there, or the aortic regurgitation developed after dissecting aneurysm. Then what is the base of the heart? Base of the heart includes the aortic and pulmonary area. For better understanding, you have to see these other chapters. So what is the base of the heart? Base of the heart includes the aortic and pulmonary area. So this is the base of the heart. Aortic and pulmonary area are the base of the heart. So common causes of palpitation. Palpitation means abnormal, unpleasant awareness of one's own weight. So examiner can cause causes of palpitation. Causes of palpitations. What are the common causes of palpitation? You have to tell the cardiac and non-cardiac. The causes of palpitation could be cardiac and non-cardiac. Cardiac and non-cardiac. In non-cardiac, you will say all the hyperkinetic circulations like anemia, pregnancy, beriberi, fever, thyrotoxicosis, AV shunts, anxiety. This is the hyperkinetic cause of non-cardiac cause of palpitations. Then drug-induced like sympathomimetics, salbutamol can cause. Then atropine can cause palpitation. Nifedipine can cause palpitations. Then non-organic diseases like excessive smoking, alcohol, excessive smoking can cause. Then cardiac neurosis, hysteria can cause palpitations, cardiac anxiety states, excessive smoking. Then miscellaneous causes include the hypoglycemia, pheochromocytoma, pheochromocytoma, hypoglycemia can cause palpitation. Then we discussed that excessive smoking can cause palpitation. Then drugs like salbutamol, atropine, these can cause palpitations. Then cardiac cause of palpitation includes the all those lesions: aortic regurgitation, mitral regurgitation, tricuspid regurgitation, mitral stenosis, ASD, VSD, PDA, ASD, VSD, PDA, all these cause palpitation. Then paroxysmal atrial tachycardia, PSVT, proximal atrial tachycardia, atrial fibrillations, ventricular ectopics, bradyarrhythmias. Then this is the what is palpitation is the abnormal, unpleasant awareness of one's own heartbeat. All valvular heart disease described so far are for chronic rheumatic heart disease. So this is the case of aortic regurgitation.